Hi, this is Tim Santoni, and welcome to the Santoni Spotlight. Today, I'm joined by Ami Kassar. Ami, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Tim, pleasure.
Before we get started, maybe give our viewers a sense a little bit about your background, how you got to this point, a little bit about your company, and what you're kind of passionate about.
Sure. So, Tim, what I love to do is help business owners and entrepreneurs figure out their capital structure and how to structure their balance sheet and their finances so they're set to grow and reach all their objectives.
Awesome. And how do you do that today? What type of company do you have?
I have a company called MultiFunding, and what we do is we work with business owners and entrepreneurs, so we hear thousands of stories. And we listen to a story, and then we advise them about different options to skin the cat and reach their objectives. It might be an SBA loan, it might be a line of credit, it might be equipment financing, it might be accounts receivable financing. Depending on what's going on, our job is to know the markets really well. And then if they like what they hear, we package up their loans and we take them out to a network of lenders that we've built to help them set up their financing.
Gotcha. I've had the pleasure of hearing you speak on occasion, and I think that you really do a good job of explaining some of the misinformation in the lending community, but maybe give our viewers a sense of the top 2 or 3 things that people that you meet with typically have misconceived information about, whether it's SBA or loans in general.
Sure.
In the market.
So I think there are a couple. One of them is called the Shark Tank myth, which sometimes business owners and entrepreneurs think that in order to reach their objectives, they need that famous investor. And I always advise you that when you take on an investor, you just got married, maybe again, and that investor is going to be with you for the life of your company. So think long and hard before you take on that investor and make sure that it's somebody that you like and is going to stand with you in good times and in bad times, because they're both going to happen. And you should always consider debt and equity options and then decide at whatever stage you are what's most comfortable for you.
Yeah, so when it comes to taking on loans, I think that a lot of times people are very concerned about the risk, right, in terms of the guaranteeing loans or the personal guarantee. Talk to our viewers a little bit about the myths about personal guarantees and how that works, and whether you have an investor, you have debt, you have equity, how that plays into it, and some considerations. You do a pretty good job of articulating the kind of dynamics between long-term debt, guaranteed debt, and what the banks are looking for, whether it's private or if it's financial debt.
So for most business owners and entrepreneurs, if you want debt, a personal guarantee is a way of life. And debt is scary, and you should think about it long and hard before you do it, and you should make sure you have a very strong thesis about how you're going to repay that debt. That being said, there's good debt and there's bad debt. Good debt is debt that you have a plan for, and you've structured it in a way that you feel very comfortable that you can handle the payments and your monthly cash flow. So if you have a choice between a loan that you can get in 2 days, but you have to pay it back in a year, and a loan that you can get in a month, and it's going to take more work, but you have 10 years to pay it back and much smaller payments, that's the responsible way to go.
Gotcha. And so as you work with customers or clients and you look at their financials and their balance sheet and things like that, what are some things red flags that I guess that come up that companies could focus on to make them more bankable or make them stronger, and maybe even avoid needing capital, but making them approachable, when it comes to pitching them to your network of lenders? What are people looking for when it comes to the balance sheet?
First and foremost is, for any business owner or entrepreneur, is have your accounting under control and know your numbers. So I joke about it that if we were to go to a basketball game tonight and there was a player running around the field with his shoelaces untied, we'd be kind of nervous. Well, the same holds true for business owners and entrepreneurs. So if you don't really have a good handle on your numbers and what's going on, you're not ready to get a loan because you're running your business irresponsibly.
Gotcha.
So that's perhaps the most important thing. And if your numbers are clear, that your options are dependent upon what you're trying to achieve and what your numbers look like. But that's one of the most important things.
Gotcha. So in other words, if you have those numbers, there's a lot of different options you could pursue, but until you have those, it's hard to evaluate even which field you're playing on.
Would you lend someone money who didn't understand their numbers?
I would not.
That's correct.
So in working with clients, maybe share an example of a recent success story you had with a client, or maybe it wasn't a success story, but a lesson learned that by them connecting with you, working with your team and or your company, that helped them to either grow, scale, or protect against maybe risk and with their business.
So part of that is tied to my book, which is called The Growth Dilemma on Amazon. And the growth dilemma is designed to help business owners think through this. So the fundamental theme of the growth dilemma is that if I were to give you a gift of $1 million today that you didn't have this morning when you woke up, and you had to use it either to invest in your business or a mutual fund of your choice, how would you divide it? A lot of times people say, if I had some money, I would do these and these things in my business. And I could get 20, 30, 40, 50% return from those investments. And the next logical question is, well, if you could do that and you feel very confident that you could do that, and you could go borrow the money at 6, 7, or 8% to do that, why aren't you? So a lot of the times, building a business is a journey, and there are things or steps that we want to take to get to the next level. And for whatever reason, we're not doing that. Capital is often the easiest piece to solve for that. So if you wanted to, as an example, add 2 salespeople, and if you thought by doing that you could double your sales, but you are afraid to pay for all that out of cash flow, maybe you should borrow the money and spread that risk out over 10 years. Things like that.
Gotcha. And when you say the money is the easiest part to solve, maybe dive deeper in what you mean by that. I think I'm reading between the lines of what you mean, but maybe give our viewers a sense of what that typically means.
Sometimes we're just stuck in our daily grind and going about our business and not really thinking about the next things we need to invest in to take it to the next level. It happens to all of us. It's happened to me at many stages in my entrepreneurial career. So you should really think about what you want your business to look like in 3 years from now. And then what tools are missing in your toolbox to help you make that happen. And then once you have a clear picture of that, would a capital infusion to your balance sheet help you accomplish that? And if so, do a mini business plan, a worst case, a medium case, and a best case scenario, and decide if you want to take those steps.
That's a great point. It's a great way to point it out. So we'll definitely link up in our show notes below the growth dilemma to the book, so you can get a copy of that. So, in your business, you're on the road, you speak a lot, you're obviously working with people all over the country. When you're not traveling and working, where do you like to spend a lot of your free time?
Well, I love spending whatever time I have with my wife and my kids and my 2 dogs, although I travel a lot, and then words with friends.
There you go. Very nice.
Okay.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll definitely link up all of Ami's information in the show notes below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We'll make sure that we get back to you with some answers. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Awesome.